Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are. Welcome to the session Cleanliness at your fingertips. Calculate wash costs with your phone. My name is Herbert Langthaler. I have the pleasure to guide you through the next hour. And in this next coming hour, the regional Fit for School program of GIZ is happy to present a new app to you, operations and maintenance app to calculate the cost for water, sanitation and hygiene in schools. This app was developed based on the experience that when it comes to planning of wash in schools intervention, the costs for cleaning and the costs for repairs are often neglected. But as a budget is so crucial, it is important to know about, and therefore this app was developed with a focus on easy use for school heads, for educational planners, to be able to calculate costs for operation and maintenance. And today, the project is happy to share this tool with you. You are invited to use it, and we are all looking forward to receive your feedback on the use of this tool. And your feedback will, of course, then contribute to further improvement and possibly also to use it with other languages later or in other contexts, in other settings outside of schools. So what can you concretely expect today? May I ask for the agenda of today? Alex, thank you very much. Behind the screen, Alex Winkler, Regional Coordinator of the Regional Fit for School program. Thanks, Alex. You see the agenda. Basically, it's 4 points we are going through with you today. First of all, we will give you instructions for the download of the app. You already find it in the chat of Pathable. You can already start if you want, but we will have a look at this closer. So first, the app download. Second, you will receive a presentation on the app. We will clarify possible questions of understanding then. You already see on the video Fred, he will do that. After this, we will provide you with 2 real life scenarios and a chance to test the app yourself. This will be done by Fred again and by Ubu. You also see him. I will introduce both of them a little bit more concretely later on. And after this, we reserved a couple of minutes for your feedback, which we are very interested in. And of course, for a little bit of discussion. As we are so many participants, discussion can only happen via chat, not in Zoom, but in Pathable. So this is the program of the coming hour. Yeah, let's just start. I'm asking Alex for the next slide, which is already the instructions for the download of the app. Yeah, thank you very much. So please just take your mobile phone. You either use the QR code or you go, whether you have Android or iPhone, to the respective store, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and you type in the O&M calculate the cost, and then you will very easily find the app for the download. As I said, you will also find more information in the Pathable link. If you have questions, then also please feel free to reach us via the chat. Alex also posted it in the chat here. You take a few minutes for the download to make sure everybody has downloaded it. After that, we will start with Fred's presentation. So even then, there is still time for the download, because only after that we will walk through together with you through the app and how to use it. Okay, so again, use the QR code, type in O&M, calculate the cost into the respective store, Android or iPhone, and then you very easily can download the app. Okay. So, and when you have done this, then it is time to hear a little bit more about the app. And this information will be provided by Fred. Fred Madrid, he's from the GSZ Regional Fit for School program. He specializes in the development of management support tools for schools with a focus on school-based management of WASH activities and facilities. And he was already part of a team developed basic operation and maintenance packages for schools, which also included costing structures. And this was the basis for the development of this O&M costing app. Fred is also heavily involved in the design, production, and installation of group hand washing facilities for schools. So he really knows what he's talking about. Fred, I see you're already there with the video. May I ask you to continue with your presentation with more information about the app? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Herwig. Good day to everyone, wherever you are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. In this session, my colleague and I would like to share an app that we have developed and is still continuing to develop and fine-tune. The main intention or the functionality of the app is to provide an overview of costs that needs to be considered in the operation and simple maintenance aspect of WASH implementations in schools. Next slide, please. But before we dive into the topic, let's just take a step back and look at what is the goal here. So if you look at the SDG target, the goal is to have all schools reach basic WASH service level by 2030, which means that all schools are able to provide drinking water at the school. And with regards to sanitation, schools are able to provide improved and single-sex usable toilet facilities. And lastly, for hygiene, schools should have hand washing facilities which have water and soap. Next slide, please. Now that we know that all schools are to provide these basic WASH services, so the question would be that when schools have these facilities, what do they need in terms of materials and tools to properly operate and maintain these facilities? And also looking at how much consumables is needed to clean the facilities and also be able to conduct hand washing in a regular basis. Next slide, please. So it's in here where the operation or O&M calculate the cost app comes into the picture. So the app was mainly developed to support school heads in calculating the annual running cost for operation and maintenance of WASH in schools implementation. The app shows its calculation in an annual cost per school and also per learner, as the O&M cost in the education sector is also calculated based on number of learners or enrollees. Aside from the app being used in the school level, it can also be used on sub-national level or even national level to estimate operation and maintenance costs for respective number of schools and learners for budget planning purposes. Lastly, the app also includes pandemic preparedness and response or infection and prevention control measures calculation that adheres to WHO, UNICEF, and UNESCO recommendations. Next slide, please. So how does someone use the app? So there are two kinds of information that the app needs in order to calculate the annual O&M running cost. No? So first, the users need to provide information about the school or a group of school in that matter that would serve as base for the calculation of the app. Information such as number of toilets, number of classrooms, total enrollees, and number of school days will be provided in this part. After providing those information, the app will then ask users to provide information on costs of different items listed in the app, where users also have the option to leave the items as blank if it's not applicable, or if the item is already available in the school and there is no need to buy it for next year. Can you click once more, Alex, to run the animation? Well, click once. Oh, it's working. But yeah, later would do a walkthrough on this one to really have an idea on how the app works. So after providing the cost, so the users will then see the results based on the inputs. As mentioned earlier, the results are shown in annual total per school and per student. And the app also shows the quantity of materials needed to be procured, which will be helpful as a guide for procurement procedures. At this point, the results are not saved yet, so the user still needs to save it and have the option to either just save it on the device where they have the app installed, or send it via email as a PDF. Next slide. One slide. Is still here. Yes.
Hi, Fred. Sorry, can you not see the slides? How can this support WINS implementation?
Okay, Alex, we can see the slide, but we might have lost the connection to Fred now.
Sorry about
Fred,
that.
are you there?
Problems again.
Fred, can you see the slide?
Yeah, I can see the slide.
Okay.
We did we left. Sorry, let me just reset my screen. Yeah, sorry for that internet interruption.
No problem.
Problem nowadays. Yes. So yeah, how can this support WINS implementation? First, let's look at it in a school level. So the results at hand can support the school for budget planning purposes, and also be able to mobilize resources from various school stakeholders by having a clear idea on what are the items needed and the quantity needed per item. In this way, school stakeholders can also make informed decisions based on what they can commit to the school, and also set priorities. Another aspect where the app can support schools is that the app can provide information on possible cost-cutting strategies where needed, by identifying the cost drivers of WINS O&M. To cite an example at this point, let's use an imaginary school for our next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in this example imaginary school, the school provides purified drinking water to its students that they procure from commercial water refilling stations, while the school uses water from their piped water connection for cleaning purposes. In this scenario, as you can see on the left side of the screen, the results shows that more than half of the total annual cost is on the cost for water. And if we look further into the breakdown, the figure in the middle, the main cost driver is the cost for drinking water that the school buys from commercial water purifying stations. But what if the school would invest on a simple and centralized water filtration device and use the piped water, or just have the water source tested for potability and use it for drinking? So then you can see on the figure on the right side of the screen, the cost is now down to 3,500 USD from 8,500 US dollar, which saves more than 50% of the original cost. So just by using the app itself, users are able to identify cost drivers, and from there be able to come up with plans to cut down costs and save resources. Next slide, please. Now let's look at it one level higher. Let's look at how the app can support education managers in national and subnational level. First, the app can be used to estimate the cost to provide basic wash services for a group or cluster of schools just by combining the number of students, the number of classroom, and toilets in the area of interest. With this, education managers can also estimate future costs in anticipation of increased number of enrollees in the coming years, or even calculate budget implication for an incoming investment to construct wash facilities in schools, because more facilities to operate and maintain also requires more budget to it. After this presentation, my colleague Ugo prepared some exercises on this topic, so to have more appreciation on the points that I just shared on this slide. So I hope you have downloaded the app already, so that you can come along with the demonstration of my colleague later. Next slide, please. Yeah, before I end my presentation, I want to share with you the publicly available information collaterals about the app. You may check them out using the link on the slide, which will also be posted on the chat in the Pathable platform. I would also like to mention that currently the app is available in 3 languages, in English, French, and Indonesian. And next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah.
Fred, the slide is already.
That ends my presentation. Yeah. So that ends my presentation. I'm now giving back the floor to you, Herwig. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Great. Thank you very much, Fred, for this great and informative presentation. It seems that there's a slight delay when Alex is posting the slides and you seeing the slides, but nevertheless, everything was working fine. Thank you very much. Before we continue, and you already mentioned that you have prepared a test for the participants, I would like to check whether there are some immediate questions of understanding from the participants. And as we will have the test run, so maybe really questions related to the presentation or the development of the app, because other aspects we will be touching later. I already see one question here in the chat. It is about whether it can be used beyond schools or for other uses. Do you plan to extend to other users? And if yes, how do you see this being replicated and scaled up? This is the first question. And maybe Fred, another one. What do we have here? If schools in one region or country do not have the same characteristics, is it possible anyways to calculate costs at a sub-national level? Maybe short reaction to this, Fred?
Yes. So for the first question, yes, there's a possibility where the concept of this having an O&M costing app for other contexts is also possible. Just to also make mention, currently the app is being adopted for healthcare facilities, for example, but it is still on the development phase of it, and it's not ready yet for testing or for users. But yes, just to answer directly the question, it is possible to adopt the app.
Mm. Okay, thanks.
On the second one, if schools in one region country do not have the same characteristic, is it possible any ways to calculate cost at subnational level? Yes, it really depends on how would you like to apply it, because the main point or the core functionality of this app itself is just to provide, at least when you look at subnational or national level, is to provide an estimate on how the operation and maintenance aspect of doing an WASH implementation, for example, in this context in schools, can provide estimates for budget planning purposes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Fred. I see 4 more posts in the chat. Let us try to answer that in a short way, and then to continue with the test run. So the question was about what inspired the app development, and if there are already experience, what school administrators find the most useful feature in the app so far. To start with the first 2, Fred.
Mm-hmm. What inspired the development? Because basically, as you mentioned earlier, Herwig, when we look at WASH, sometimes the software aspect of it, like the operation and maintenance, is sometimes neglected. Usually, most of the focus when it comes to cost, we're just looking at capital investment outlay. Sometimes, because in reality, when you look at life cycle cost of such facilities, there's a huge aspect on it on operation and maintenance, and that's what got inspired us to really also look at this aspect and provide information, provide calculation to users in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Do we still have time though?
Actually, for one last short answer, maybe you pick one of those other questions here, and as we have the questions here anyway, I'm sure it is possible to relate to that in the next part of the presentation. Are there already experiences with the school administrators and the features?
Just to immediately answer that one, the feedback that we got, it came from Indonesia. They really appreciate having a calculation and really a document out of that calculation that would then serve as a basis for them to plan. Because I think that's the main functionality which users really appreciated.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fred. As we have little time, we need to continue. We do not forget the questions we already have in the chat. Let's see how many others come in. Maybe it's possible to take those questions into account in the next part. And this is the walkthrough and the test along real life scenarios. This will be presented by Ubo, also then joined by Fred again. Ubo Backes is also working for the Regional Fit for School project from GSZ. He's an environmental engineer with a background in the use and education of geographic information systems worldwide. He's at the moment a senior research consultant at the Center of Environmental Informatics of the University of the Philippines in Cebu, and part of the monitoring and evaluation team of the GSZ project. And his main interests are data collection using drones and mobile devices and visualizing complex data. So, Ubo, the floor is yours. May I ask you for the presentation of another complex thing? We will now invite the participants to use the app, actually. Please, Ubo. You're still muted, I think.
Okay. Good day, everyone. After you installed the app, you will see the the icon with O&M with the wrench and the toilet brush in your device. I'm presenting this from an iPhone, especially on Android, things might look a little bit different. And what I would like to do is to give you a realistic walkthrough based on data from the Philippines. So if you open the app, oops, sorry, open up. After the startup screen, and I'm working offline to prevent any pop-ups, you get to see our partners, and then you go to the welcome screen. What I would like to suggest is, let's not go to the how to use, because that's this video about, and let's begin. But let's go to the top, because one of the more important tabs, I think, is the About tab. And in the About tab, you can find information about the app, basis for calculation, but also our data protection and the contact information. And especially the basis for calculation, that gives you an overview of the numbers and the calculations we use throughout this app. So everything is documented. Apart from that, there is a resource library at the bottom where you have more background information. So if we go to forms, we start with a school identification. This is not mandatory. And as I said, this is a realistic but not a real situation based on the Philippines. So if I enter my country, Philippines, then of course, we also change from Australian dollars to pesos. We have a fictional but realistic big urban school, and the address would be Cebu, Philippines. By the way, before I forget, in the resources tab in Pathable, there are a number of documents. One of those documents is a PDF file with all the data that I use in this presentation. So if you want, you can tag along, work along. All the data are there, so all the inputs that I have used. And there are also 3 documents with the output results. So if you are hesitant to ask or want to try, you can either go along, or if you have downloaded the app, follow these examples and do the calculations yourself. So after the first page about the school, I click done, and then I can either use the buttons back or next, or I can just swipe the next page. The next page is about the school information. Well, as I said, we're talking about a big urban school. So in this case, we have 6,291 students. The school runs for 200 days per year, and the school has 91 cubicles, which results in more or less 1 cubicle per 69 students. The school has 50 classrooms, and at current times, the school is only cleaned once a day. Again, by clicking next, I go to the next tab, and you can see that the questions are really categorized per type. So after the basic information, go to the questions about water supply, and this school gets both its drinking water and its cleaning water from a piped water supply from the municipality. This is all the baseline information. And now, as Fred mentioned before, if there are items that the school already has or that are not relevant, in that case, there is no need to enter those. In my case, we're having to pay for our water, but we're doing that by cubic meter, and we just assume the price to be 42 pesos, both for cleaning and for drinking water, because it's basically the same source. Now, if I click at done, hey, my screen is lagging. Can you still? Hey. Something is going wrong here, because you see my screen move. Oops. I don't know. Just a sec.
Actually, Ubo,
Yeah.
what we still see is the selection of different water sources.
That's
here.
what I also see. I'm
Yeah.
trying to stop my video. Maybe that will help.
Mhm.
Okay, let me stop the share and share again. Hopefully that will help.
Okay, we see it again. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not moving. You know, my phone, it is nicely moving. So let me disconnect my phone and connect again. Maybe that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm cleaning and disinfecting. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
this is where I was. We're back.
Yeah, very
So after you enter your data, you see at the bottom of a screen for this category, so in this case, the annual water supply, that the costs per year are around 50 pesos per student or 317,000 for the whole school. This summary at the bottom for all the different cost types is always present and gives a nice overview. Now, if we go to the next set, what do we need as a toilet user kit for cleaning and disinfecting the toilets? So we need one trash bin per toilet with cover. We need one toilet brush at 59 pesos. And we need one dipper. And by the way, these prices, I got them all from doing some online shopping. So as I said, the prices are maybe not real, but they are realistic. Again, at the bottom, you see the prices per student per school. And going to the next set, then we need not only these tools per toilet, but also per toilet wok for cleaning. So what we need there would be one brush or mop, two brooms, one bucket, a big one, 10 sponges at 80 pesos, and one pair of rubber boots. Okay. Next, for the classrooms, we still need one broom, one floor brush or mop. Sorry, and there, I make it sticky here. 999.75. Next, one bucket, two pieces, brooms 100, one dustpan, and one again trash can with cover. So this is more or less the hardware. Now for the protection of the people cleaning, we need a number of reusable face masks. We need, of course, our rubber gloves, two pieces pump dispensers, microfiber cloths, and waterproof aprons, two pieces, and two pieces face shields. Okay, for the actual cleaning and disinfecting, we need, of course, our materials. And I forgot to show the little eye on the page. Gives you an indication already, a little background about what and why is it needed. So if we use the cleaning detergents, then in this case, we are talking about 52 pesos for 1 kilo. So you can be flexible here. It automatically calculates the costs per gram for you. The same for bleach. We paid around 184 pesos for this 1 gallon of bleach. For our hand washing, the soap, 1 bar of 75 grams at 22 pesos. And lastly, 1 tube of toothpaste at 59 pesos. Now, all the inputs are done, all the prices are calculated. And you can see now in the final page that we have the results per school. So the school spent around almost 2 million pesos on cleaning, and the hygiene supplies are a big part of that. The costs per student are calculated. And also we have what I like to call the shopping list. How much do we need in cubic meters water, in pieces, etc. If we go to our save results options, as Fred mentioned, we have two options. We can save it to the device. You can also save an email, and in that case, we could use the data to get an annual overview of the rinse-related costs. In this case, I'll only save to my device. So if I save to my device, and then if I temporarily close the app, I can go to my files, and there the latest data are available, and you can see nicely printed, nicely designed. All the issues are there, all the items are there, and also the basis for the calculation. So the background information is there. So here in one document, you have a whole overview of all the items that you need, expenses related. Okay, so this is how we can actually calculate the costs for one school. Now, as Fred mentioned, there are a number of ways we can also do scenarios with this app. Well, one of the scenarios could be, for instance, if I go to my forms, I scroll back, and the data in the app are not explicitly saved. So that means if you actually keep the app open like I do now, the data are still there. However, if you close the app on your device, data will be gone from your memory. So especially if you do a number of scenarios, please make sure to save your data. Now, one of the scenarios that you could do, for instance, is that I mentioned before that the current situation, the school has 91 toilets, which relates to more or less 1 toilet per 69 students. What if we would like to go to a national standard and go to 1 toilet per 50 students? That would mean that the school would have to add around 25 additional toilets to get to a total of 126 all in all. So I can change that here. And finding a budget to add those toilets is one thing, but of course the additional operation and maintenance costs also change. So now if I change only the number of toilets, but I keep the rest the same, then we can actually check in our results at the end that now the costs per school don't even change that much. It's a little bit closer to the 2 million, but there's not much change. So we can actually see how the costs are changing by doing these scenarios. Another scenario, another question asked before was, can you use this app on a sub-regional scale? Yes, of course. If there are differences between the regions, maybe it's good to do a number of scenarios for different regions that are more homogeneous in character and do it like that. But for instance, if you would like to see how a whole city can be calculated. So for instance, what if the municipality here would like to see what is my overall costs for operation and maintenance of the public schools? In that case, I can say here in Cebu, we have more or less the biggest shift of students of 170,000 students. They still go to school 2 days per year. If we adhere to the 1 student per 50, or 1 toilet per 50 students, it would mean 3,300 toilets, and we have more or less 27 classrooms. And also now with the pandemic preparedness, and we have up to 3 shifts in the Philippines per school, say that the schools clean after every shift. So instead of 1 cleaning per day, we go to 3 cleaning sessions per day. The rest remains the same. And then walking through this calculation, we can go again to the results. And then you can see that for the whole city, it would come to an operation and maintenance expenses of around 6.5 million pesos. I think I would like to leave it at this for now and open the floor for questions or for our next part. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. Back to you, Harry.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Ivo. As we promised in the beginning, it is a very practical and hopefully easy to use application. I hope also many participants already tried it during Ivo's explanations. I also saw that Fred was able to answer all the other questions we found in the chat. Thank you very much. So at the moment, from what I see, no question is open, but there might be still more questions. Those are very welcome. Yeah, thank you very much, Ubo, again. Let us, before checking more questions, let us start with a very short round of feedback we provided. We would like to ask you, before coming to other questions of you, we would like to ask you basically 3 questions, and those 3 questions you will find in the polls section, which is next to the chat function. I see that already some of the participants entered there, typed in their answers. I'm asking the others one as well to do so. Well, the first question you find is in a few words. What did you like and appreciate about the app? And all your input you type in will create a kind of word cloud, which I already see the first parts of at the moment. The second question then, in a few words, which part of the app that you found difficult or challenging during the activity? So the first, what did you like and appreciate most? The second one, what did you maybe find difficult or challenging when using the app? And then the third question is, how likely are you to use or promote or adapt the costing app in your own line or work or context? Let us have a look at the question number 1. So what did you like and appreciate mostly? The customization, I see it's simple. The simplicity, the currencies, the different currencies. There was also one question in the chat I saw, and Fred already answered that if it is possible to add another currency. Yes, it is. It will be added. When I look at question number 2, already a few answers are here. So what you regard as difficult? Well, the use, the understanding. Here the currencies are regarded as difficult. And for the question number 3, we ask you to vote along those stars here. So the more stars you choose, the more likely you are to use or promote to adapt the costing app in future. Yeah, even more of your answers are coming in. For question number 1, what did you like and appreciate most? Again, the simplicity is mentioned mainly. The currencies, the use, it's simple. Yeah. Okay, we keep this open for a while. Thank you very much. And if you did not enter any answers, feel free to do so. It is helpful for the team to further improve and to further adapt the app. Let us go back to the chat and see whether there are questions still open. We have most of the question answered. I think this is a new one. So this goes to Fred or Ubo, whoever would like to answer this. For consumables like bleach, powder, depend on classroom size, perhaps inclusion of area could be helpful.
Yeah, for now, we have gone with standard indications for classroom for sizes. Because the app, one of the things is that there is always a danger to make things too complicated. We really want to have a simple app that's easy to use and gives a good indication. There's always the idea, if you think that the app is not good enough or it doesn't feature things, you can always say, okay, I need 10% more cleaning details because my classrooms are big. maybe instead of 10 classrooms, mention 11. Or at one point, we start developing this. We have developed it for the Philippines, it's Indonesia, we have some more developments. These are also lead types of feedback which we would like to learn, because we are doing this based on our experience and yours might be different. The same as I also saw a suggestion to use, what is the use of water for outdoor, for maybe for vegetable gardens and all in the school. Things we haven't included yet. So we really would like to learn about these things. But for us, it's also, it's a tool a school director needs to be able to use. And school directors, in our experience, are already busy as it is. So we're always finding the balance between being correct and inclusive on one side and easy to use on the other side. So, yeah, it's always the balance that we're looking for.
Thank you very much, Ubo. You already mentioned the outdoor spaces. This was also a question, so this is not included yet. There was another feedback then, outdoor spaces. What else? Yes, is there a way to feedback later if we try it in my school? So how would feedback, how could feedback reach you even after this session today?
Okay, if you go to the about part in the app, there is a contact information. So you can always use that email address. Apart from that, if you download the app, you can see also there is part of the developer, which developer has been used. There is also the email from our colleague Fred. Mm-hmm. So we have different ways to contact, to collect it. But please, we would like to encourage, please do so, because we think it's a good tool. We don't think it's perfect yet. So please provide us with as much feedback as you can.
Okay, thank you very much. Alex also posted this in the chat. And Fred, yeah, please.
Yeah, just also would like to add on what Ubu mentioned. In the app, actually, there's, if you are looking now at the app currently, if you could see at the top left, top right corner of it, there's a 3 dots there. You can actually tap that button and then you can report an issue or a feedback to that specific pages if you would like that to give feedback on each specific page. But for general feedback that you found during the experiences, yes, you can go to the contact pages, contact page within the app and send your feedback via email or directly to us in the email that will be shared by our colleague Alex in the Pathable chat.
Okay, thank you. So I think this will be very much appreciated to receive feedback also later. Another question, how are school staff considered in the calculation?
I'm a bit confused with the question.
Okay, so maybe we can have here
maybe more clarification.
More clarification, yeah. Another feedback on the appreciation that the currency customization for different countries. Yeah. Okay. Maybe number of staff. Is this?
Okay. Specifically, because if you would actually go in deep into like playing the app and really knowing the base of calculation, the items that are sensitive, for example, to number of people is just the calculation for water, the calculation for hand washing soap, and the calculation for toothpaste for example, hand washing, toothbrushing activities. As mentioned by Ubo earlier, we find the balance between simplicity and also inclusivity. We, as of the moment, we have not included the number of staff into like how many drinking liters of drinking water cost would that entail if, for example, there are a number of staff they have, and how much hand washing soap would they need to accommodate the staff itself. Because we can we assume that these numbers of staff are superseded by the number of students. So somehow, in a way, when we look at reality and how they do the activities on the school ground, it is somehow balance out the lack of that calculation. But yes, that's a good thing to also look at if there's really a a major deviation if, for example, this number of staffs are included in the calculation.
Okay, then I saw, just a moment, the question, is there any option for likely repairs?
As of the moment, what is included in the cost calculation is more on really the operation and maintenance part of it in the cleaning perspective. Simple repairs is not included yet here. Like for example, like replacement of faucets, it's not included because though as experience, there's no concrete detail as to what's the base for that calculation. Like for example, how would you assume that in a year, how many faucets would the school need? For example, school with 500 students, schools with 1,000 students. So these are the nitty-gritties that we see as of the moment that might complicate the app. So that's why as of the moment, the main focus of the functionality of the app is really on the cost on running these implementations in school level. And
but
also
if you happen to have good indications of what are the actual items needed for repair, then we would love to see if we can get it involved, because that's one part of the maintenance.
Okay, thank you very much. There are still 2 questions left. Nevertheless, we will touch them. Also, maybe Fred and Ubo can have a look at it. But we also have another colleague from another GSZ project among us, Jan Schlenk. He's from a project on sustainable sanitation, and he could, if I have the right information, he could give us a brief information about an example from another country, from Kyrgyzstan. Jan, if you're with us, yes, I think
yeah, thank you.
Here you are, yeah. If you maybe in 3 minutes or so can give us an example from Kyrgyzstan, I think this would also be interesting before we answering the last questions and then closing the session today. Jan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Herwig. And maybe just to stress on the last point Fred made, and I think you made it also in the beginning, the idea of the app is not to calculate every nitty-gritty and have the complex situation covered in the app, but to go somehow from zero knowledge or very little knowledge about the costs, running costs and operation and maintenance costs, to maybe 80 or 90%. So to keep it very simple, I think this we were all struggling like the last months and years to keep it. And then the idea is also to really, I mean, we have the SDG on education where there is usable and functional toilets should be available on school grounds. So the idea is really to help schools to bring this in line. So this is maybe also why only students at the moment and not teachers and teaching staff are involved. And now coming to the healthcare facilities adaptation. I mean, we were approached by the our GIZ health program in Kyrgyzstan if we could adapt the app or try to adapt it to primary health facilities, because they faced the challenge now during the last months of the COVID-19 pandemic with procurement of PPE and other supplies, and had to deal individually each health facility with the procurement of masks, soaps, gloves, but also disinfections. And we thought like that there is, I mean, and I want to stress again, it's only primary health facilities. We are not talking about hospitals, that there are some overlapping issues where it would be maybe easy to adapt this. So we started it, I think a year ago with the first talks and meetings, and were able to create a beta version of the app for healthcare facilities, and tested it also in Kyrgyzstan a bit, but also in parallel revised it by different experts on the global level. So I want to give you, because only a few minutes are left, some interim results too. Most important that actually, yeah, our finding was that the situation is more complex even in this primary health facilities, because we have, for example, the patient numbers can vary quite a bit, because we don't have, I mean, yeah, you can't predict them so well like in schools, because you don't have enrolled students. And then also the whole issue of infection prevention and control in the health sector is, of course, very, I mean, for good reasons, much more complex than in schools. And there are so many regulations on national and global level which have to be met, so that we are still ongoing and trying to adapt it further, because it's more difficult than we thought in the beginning. Whereas, I mean, the good news is that with the O&M cost calculation for wash facilities, this works already. So the wash facilities, the toilets and hand washing stations and so on in healthcare facilities, this is quite good to be covered. But then I think there was also a question regarding the size of the rooms and various different functional rooms and so on. And this is even on a primary level in the health sector, again, much different than, and much more complex than in schools. So we are still continuing to move this forward and to develop this forward, and hope that maybe even next year or in the coming months we can present then a final version of the app. And of course, if someone is interested in more details, or is maybe even working in the health sector on a similar issue on task, it would be very, yeah, we would be very interested if you would get in touch with you, and maybe even for testing and giving feedback. So thank you very much. I think that's in brief.
Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you very much, Jan, for being with us and providing with this example from another country. With this, our session is already at the end, and as this is part of a big conference, we really have to finish in time. Otherwise, they will just cut us off. But I saw that the open questions are already answered by Fred and Ubo. Thank you very much. I see there's another recommendation came in as another feedback, and you already heard about the possibility of giving feedback even after this session and later, when you hopefully will be using that app. Well, at the end of this session, I would like to thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for your interest, for your questions, for your feedback. This always appreciated very much. Yeah, and for the last final words, I would like to hand over to you, Fred, for your last message. What would be nice from the project's point of view when it comes to the future of the app? Please, Fred.
Yes, thank you. Just very quickly, because we still have a minute left. So thank you once again, everyone, for tuning with us in this session. And we hope that we have provided you with some information on at least O&M costing for WINS. And as I mentioned in the first part of the session, the app is continually being developed. So we encourage everyone to make use of the app and also be able to provide feedback. And for everyone who is also interested to use and adapt the app in their own context, or even wants the app to be available in your language, we are also open for future collaborations. You may drop us just an email in the email provided by my colleague in the Pathable chat. And yeah, that's all. And have a great Stockholm World Water Week, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you very much.